Tom Z said there's a haunting sound.
Yes, indeed.
Do you want me to tap the microphone like, does that?
I'll do it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Sunderland Board of Selectmen. If we can call it to order at 7 o'clock. We're going to start off tonight with a assessor's classification update. Lee is going to tell us what we need to know and why we need to know it. We have a couple of boards updates, town administrator update. We're actually going to vote to sign a contract about some solar generation in town we may have all heard of. And then very, very briefly, temporary labor for the highway department. Before we start any of that, happiest holidays to everybody who's in town, as well as the people who might well be watching. Okay, Lee, you get to own the show for the first part.
Okay. When the assessors met with you last week for the so-called, the classification hearing itself, your job was to determine whether or not there would be a split rate for taxes in Sunderland this coming year. At that time, we were working with our preliminary valuation figures, which have now been completed and approved. The tax rate has been approved at $13.98 per thousand, which is up about 55 cents from last year. The water rate will be 50 cents, which is down from last year's 60. And excess levy capacity, this is important, it's one of our obligations to inform you that there's an excess levy capacity, a final figure of $114,379.84.
Can you repeat that? Only because I want to hear it again.
$114,000.
Can we get a drum roll, please?
Nice.
114,300.
Right, that's another almost 10,000 more than we anticipated last week. So that is the final figure.
That's about what I had calculated,
Yep.
actually. Well,
Yeah.
in the ballpark, yeah.
Nice.
Right, so that shows a really good trend over the last several years. It's
Yeah.
a great turnaround in the town situation.
Tom?
Yeah.
No, well, if you go back a few years ago, we had no excess levy.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow,
No,
No, we had
$200, couple of $100 bucks?
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Can you just repeat the water rate again? I'm sorry.
Water
Oh,
rate will be
50?
50 cents
Okay.
per thousand.
So residents should understand, although the tax rate is going up, their bills could go higher.
Generally
Could go higher, but they could go probably like 114,000. Potentially, it could go like another 25 cents higher.
Oh, yes.
The ability, when you say could go, Tom,
We
the
had
ability to
ability.
raise,
Ability.
right? I think
The
that's,
town has
yeah.
the ability, the right
Right.
to set the tax
Right.
rate.
At the 2.5%, right?
Right, at a level, yes, that would be 25 to 30 cents higher than it is currently.
But, yeah,
Yeah.
just
yeah.
roughly.
And actually,
25
as
cents.
far as the impact on the individual is concerned, on the individual property owner, although the tax rate has gone up, in general, valuations have come down 1 or 2%,
Right.
reflecting the slow recovery in the real estate market.
Mhm.
So it should not be too hurtful a change,
Right.
too difficult a change for most people. And final bills will be going out in January, due and payable on or before May 1st.
Nice. Nice. So 1398 is our tax rate,
Yes,
and that is by the thousand for property owners.
exactly.
There's a little bit left in excess capacity, which we're choosing not to raise. And that is a sign of, well, it's a sign of many things, frankly. Excess capacity is a sign of many things, as
It's a healthy sign.
it's a healthy sign. That's a good way to put it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. And our annual paperwork, Margaret and I were talking earlier about our annual paperwork to the DOR. We're in good stead with that as
We
far.
are. I'm
good.
just gonna ask you to reinitial with tonight's
Sign
date.
it. Okay.
You got it.
Yep. And, just re-sign with, and add tonight's date over to the right, and we
Okay.
are all set.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Lee, and for what you do.
Oh, thank you.
Good vital stats.
Yeah, absolutely right. That's a good way to put it, David. Got one of those pen things.
This one need to be blue.
Go above.
Does it have to be in blue?
I mean, I have blue, so I'm in.
Blue it
Some
is.
have to be.
All right.
Right,
I know, it's
yeah.
never red.
Oh, he's got blue. Okay.
No, that's no longer a requirement, because it all goes in electronically now.
I was gonna say it all right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There you go, Lee.
All right.
Thanks so
Very
much.
good.
Have a Merry
I'll
Christmas.
get a
Thanks.
copy of the full set of papers to your office.
Great.
tomorrow.
The Board of Assessors is also reviewing the classification hearing guidelines.
Right.
Oh, excellent.
And Lee is developing a little chart of levy information for the
Okay.
board for future reference.
And tasks we hope, and what we do, why we do it, very much informed with our other guidelines.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, good, yeah.
Perfect.
It's difficult because the word levy is used in 7 different ways in this process.
It's also a great
True.
blues song.
Yeah, oh, it is.
When the levee breaks,
But don't drive your car to the levee.
don't drive your car to the levee, exactly.
Right, I mean, you only deal with the whole thing for 5 minutes once a year.
Tom Zimnosky listened to that song when he was a kid. He was driving his Chevy to the levee.
Ah, yes.
But the levy was dry.
I heard that.
You going over to,
I'm very
Okay, bye, Lee.
going over to Hadley or?
Lee, Merry
Yeah,
Christmas.
exactly.
Thank
Hadley
you, and
levy.
all of you.
Right, Tom?
I bought American Pie.
Got it.
I actually had a Pontiac, but Tempest, but
Oh, GM, you know, hey.
So-
I thought you had a
Pontiac to the
Trans Am.
levy.
I thought you had a Trans Am.
I had Firebird after the,
That's right, Firebird.
that was my third car.
I can see you in that.
And-
Little
well, no,
Rockford,
he had a-
little
he had a
Rockford
red-
file
You had a
action.
red one, right? Yours was red. I remember, I said, why, I remember, why did you buy red? And he said, Dad, it had fade to lease.
Point. Really? Huh. Most popular color is gray now.
No, I remember Tom was very specific why he bought red. I said, why'd you choose red? And he looked, I remember that was a long time ago, but I remember
Yes, it was.
you did a lot of research into that car. Remember that?
So we've got minutes of December 16th.
Not that I like cars that go fast, but.
In a straight line.
Yeah, qualify that.
Left-hand turns are
Left turn,
fine too.
left turn, right.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. Second. And then that is on the minutes of December 16th. All of us were present. All those in favor?
Aye.
3-0, please. Okay, under town administrator update, I'm gonna jump over board updates. We'll save that for the end of the.
The only thing I have is an update on the budget hearing schedule for FY15. The board and the finance committee will hold joint budget hearings as follows. Monday, January 6th, 7 PM will be the library's budget hearing. Tuesday, January 21st, that's a holiday week, and that's why it's falling on a Tuesday that week. So that's starting at 7 PM. You'll have the highway budget hearing, and then at 7:30, the police department budget hearing. Monday, February 3rd, 7 PM will be fire EMS. Wednesday, February 12th at 7 PM will be the elementary school and Frontier Regional. That was a date the superintendent and business manager could do. And then Monday, February 24th at 7 PM, general government.
Okay, and all these are joint with the finance committee?
They'll be joint with the finance committee. Yep.
Okay. And as we heard earlier from the assessor's clerk, our state paperwork is in place. That is, our
The recap.
recap is in place, and we're waiting for a final analysis from the DOR on funding. That is things like certified free cash, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's the next step. So again, we're even with the turmoil, even with the turnover, not turmoil, turnover in the offices on the administrative and finance side, we're still able to get these in a relatively timely fashion. Okay, board updates? Dave, you have anything?
No. not this
Tom,
week.
anything from last week?
South County EMS met on Thursday. We canceled Tuesday. We met on Thursday. I think we finished up, for the most part, the job description for the director, the advertisement. Margaret, did you see the ad?
I haven't seen the final.
So we worked on the ad placement. We also talked with the state. So all that was going forward. Deerfield, just so you guys know, Deerfield is starting up a limit, are putting in paperwork for a limited paramedic service to go into operation. And that's gonna be kinda good because it'll get, the state was at the last meeting and they said that'll make it, it'll be just as easy when South County gets, they'll just like a transfer of paperwork, so that's all set. Their Deerfield Selectmen said that they don't have a problem with David being the interim director to do a lot of the paperwork stuff. They don't have a problem with that. Sunderland Ambulance is gonna be going through, so they're gonna make a list of what's gonna be needed for that ambulance to become paramedic level service. To have the right, nothing will be ordered, of course, until we get more close. We had a interesting discussion about the director's position and who the director reports to. Very interesting, because there was somebody from outside the group, actually the state, thought that the director would be reporting to the boards of selectmen. And it was very interesting, that the representatives from the 3 towns all said exactly the same thing. No.
Right.
That the board of directors, whatever we call ourselves,
Right.
would be the ones
That he reports into.
dealing with the elected boards and the finance committee. The director needs to stay non-political. Don't worry about the politics. That's what the boo does.
That was one of the most interesting parts about the MOU as well, was about the Board of Oversight and its relationship with what's essentially employees, technically, employees of one of the member communities.
I'll tell you what, it was a very interesting discussion, and when the discussion turned that way, it was almost in unison, the 3 town representative says, no, that's
Nope,
not how it
that's-
works.
yeah.
The director reports to the boo goes to the finance committees, the boo goes to the, they may take him to do, but it's not, they're not selling it to the 3 different, he's not selling it to the 3 different boards.
Smart. It's not a
Those are very
cover-
good, so that's going out there, and I'm sure, we're not gonna make the January deadline, but that's okay. We also talked about funding mechanism, and we voted to send out the first bills, so Margaret, you should be seeing that shortly. But besides that, it's, we talked about staffing, that kind of stuff, and hiring.
Good. So again, the trajectory is still
Yeah,
in the right direction.
the biggest thing, we had a letter from the South Deerfield Fire District Fire Chief that talked about red lights, and we're able to, we're working through that. That doesn't seem to be a
Issue,
major problem,
right.
because it's
Yeah.
really basically the hometown fire chief makes that decision, so we're working through that. And as our chief keeps saying, the red light doesn't give you the permission to be an idiot.
Right, that's a really good point, actually.
That's very true.
And actually, that's the chief's real words.
Yeah.
It doesn't, they know, they're not, and I believe all the firemen and EMTs are continually reminded about, obeying traffic laws, and you're not running through red lights, and all that kind of stuff, so, it was a good meeting. It was a, lengthy one, but a lot of stuff is happening.
Very good. Last week,
When's the next meeting? I'm sorry. When's the next meeting? Okay.
I defer.
they just keep coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
There will be
I'm sure
meeting.
it'll be coming up soon.
Right. There was a meeting of the Housing Committee last week downstairs, and we had a needs assessment in front of us. And some of the areas around housing will help guide the direction of the Housing Committee and its appropriate tools, whether it be town meeting appropriation, professional help, CPA funding. So our next meeting, we'll be able to work on some of the direction. What was very interesting about the needs assessment and the import that the community seems to have put on the need for in-town senior housing, as opposed to some of the other areas, rental and first-time ownership. So it was really, really well-rounded, good discussion, and I appreciate the perspectives that the other members of the Housing Committee bring to bear on that. So a fair amount of work ahead for that group, and hopefully for the town, something that's tangible in the very near future. So
Can I just add to that? There was also expressed overwhelming support for master plan updates
Yeah, it was very
in the
interesting.
coming years. Overwhelming, yeah. Yeah, so that was good.
So we thank the COG for the coalition and, the presentation, and as well as the people in and around the community who responded. It wasn't an overwhelming majority of folks in town who responded, or citizens who responded, but the responses were genuine and certainly heartfelt, so we'll take it from there. We've got a solar contract in front of us. Now, we're trying to get to and through the phase of our contract that is the lease and PPA arrangement. Now, remember, we have two sites here, one at the elementary school, one by the public safety complex. We're putting in ground mount solar arrays, and they're sized proportionate to the town's current consumption of electricity. So as we go through the contract part and construction pieces begin, which will likely be, well, I don't know the schedule for that, but regardless, it's important to bear in mind that this process is going to be really not in the town's revenue stream until post-commissioning. And, just because construction begins, we're gonna take, I think, probably the first year, that being this year, and then post-commissioning, we're gonna see an appropriation requirement, and then we're working on how best to identify where the revenue stream from this lease and pilot comes back and is actually seen on the revenue side. So the town and the people at the head table here are working through what those mechanisms are, just to be reassured that it's still the same deal. It's a lease, it's a PPA, and it is in net our electricity consumption matched, and then a pilot and/or revenue coming in. The challenge is that it's going to come in according to the DOR. It's going to come in through our auditor, that it has to come in through general revenues. So we may see it as free cash. So we're looking for ways to identify where it comes from. So anyway, that's the long and short of it. And those kinds of details are important, knowing that town meeting as the body can see both the expense as well as the revenue. So we're gonna make sure that that's just as transparent as possible. So we have a draft contract in front of us. Margaret, anything I should know about that, or the board should know about that? We know it's been through legal review and legal review and legal review.
Yes, it has, and just today, our town council has approved the PPA and lease agreements as to legal form. And the board will have 2 additional agreements to execute after the PPA and lease agreements. Those will be the pilot agreement and the escrow agreement. And those are just gonna be executed prior to commissioning, but you'll have those in the coming few months, but it'll be before commissioning.
And the escrow agreement is for the takedown decommissioning if required.
Exactly.
Okay.
There is a number that was given to the planning board, but wasn't part of the planning board process. The planning board gave it to the board, and we've given it to legal counsel and our consultant, and we think that there is a number, and it looks as though the decommissioning assurance would be put in full escrow in the amount of $72,036. So.
Okay. So at this point, I think I'd entertain a motion that the board vote to approve and sign, and I'm reading this from a cheat note. This is
Okay,
from the lawyer.
Legal counsel.
Legal counsel. Vote to approve and sign the solar power purchase agreements and related leases with Broadway Renewable Strategies Sunderland Elementary LLC and Broadway Renewable Strategies Sunderland Public Safety Complex LLC for the development of solar energy facilities at the Sunderland Elementary School and Public Safety Complex, each such power purchase agreement providing for a separate agreement for payment to the town in lieu of taxes with respect to the applicable lease area.
Motion.
Second for discussion.
Go ahead, Tom.
I just want residents of town know that this is, it's a good thing for the town. I mean, there's a lot, and hopefully over the next couple of years, when the money's important, but I mean, also there's a commitment. When you talk about Sunderland is a green community, I mean, you gotta talk about the commitment to becoming a green community. So I think that really, it's a visual reminder of what we consider important for our town. But I'd just like to thank Planning Board, Conservation, Margaret, the original group that got together to talk about, putting this whole thing together. There was a lot of work that went into it. And a lot of people, the Energy Committee, with a lot of the work they did, there's a lot of different people that made it happen. And if you put, when they build a library, they get to put a plaque outside the building with everybody that worked on it. I would just be able to say that to do a lot of things in town, it takes a lot more than sometimes what it does to build a library. Because of all the committees and boards and people that have to step up to make it happen. I'd just like to thank all those people from the board of selectmen, because without your help and your dedication, it would never have happened.
That's really well put, Tom, and Margaret and I were speaking earlier in the afternoon about how a couple of years' worth of work kind of boils down to signing of contract. Yeah. And it seems almost a touch anticlimactic.
It does,
right? And yet we're
Done all
talking
that.
about a 20-year piece of infrastructure that's going to serve the town well.
It's like sign there.
Exactly.
And then that's it, yep.
So Tom, that was really well put. There's a lot of effort that went into it, no doubt about that.
Every
Okay,
time you drive by, you'll get to see it though,
Good point.
so.
So we've got a motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
3-0, please. Okay. All right. We had a discussion about legal holidays at our last meeting, and it's brought back here because Margaret's decided that it's really important. We're gonna change all of them.
No.
What?
Margaret, how can you change Christmas?
Well, I
We'll be
changed.
celebrating that on the
I
13th
changed
of July.
nothing except, I had kind of, I had forgotten that 2 years ago at town meeting approved the holiday observation in accordance with a person's work week. And so July 4th just now reflects that the holiday would be observed on July 3rd for employees not normally scheduled to work on the Friday.
Hence the
It's as
ask.
simple as that, and so-
Okay, so you didn't change Christmas, you changed Independence Day.
There you go.
Yeah, I guess that's it.
Very good.
We'll be celebrating that on December 25th.
Thank you for the FYI. Okay, Tom, we've been working through, and we have a draft in front of us here, a continued draft, a working document of our alcohol license, new transfer. And the point was raised, and I think rightly so, about the dynamics between the ABCC, the state statutes, as well as our inspection process. And we're continuing to work through some of the Mass General Law components, because like a standard, they're promulgated and revisited. We want to ensure that what we've got in front of us represents the newest of the requirements for inspection, in particular on fire, public safety, Board of Health, et cetera. And I think that second sheet is a part that's really spelling that out for us. And at this point here, of course, the license renewals are complete for this current cycle, but this allows us for the next cycle to educate.
I don't know if all board members actually have this again in your packets. You had this in your packets
This is-
before it was
the MGL job.
Oh,
there was
Page
an
2.
outline. Sorry.
That's all right.
Go ahead.
Take that one.
There you go.
And so the key for the upcoming cycle is to incorporate the requirements of the ABCC for the facility inspections, as well as what we currently do. And then these can be aligned going for the next licensing. Again, they're standards that are promulgated and revisited. And if they're revisited, we need to keep up the speed with them. Now, on our own new and transfer, there are not that many changes. There are a couple of references, and that's all that's happened. And then we want to find a way to incorporate the MGL 138
Actually,
elements.
you can see some of these. These are some of the inspection requirements or inspection provisions in Chapter 138, Section 12, that the local licensing authority has the ability to incorporate into local procedure. So requirements with regard to occupancy, and there would be inspections involved with that, conducted likely by the fire department and building commissioner. Compliance with premises definition under Chapter 138, Section 12. And that would be likely conducted by the building commissioner and the health agent. age and character compliance, and drug compliance would likely be investigations conducted by the police department. So those are the four pieces of the ABCC statute that could be adopted locally. So I can, if the board would like, I can do a draft of the alcohol license renewal procedure. I could do an update on that and the checklist and incorporate those pieces for the board's review.
Okay.
You know, one of the pieces there, Tom, and it's been raised, and as well as David, about the actual license that's been applied for. You know, when is a restaurant not a restaurant, or when is a tavern not a tavern?
Right.
And I wonder if that's something that we should revisit in the upcoming cycle. Not so much as part of our procedure, but again, you could have an application for, again, a restaurant that doesn't serve any food at all. Is it appropriate? And maybe it's an appropriateness element to the licensing renewal.
Maybe a checkbox even, you
Yep.
know, in that respect. You know, we're
Yep.
applying for this type of.
So with respect to incorporating into our form,
Excuse me.
Margaret, I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
We can move forward with that.
Well, I would think, Scott, if you follow these guidelines, if there's inconsistencies should be noted and brought to our attention
Absolutely.
Yeah.
when they do
So
the
we need to make
inspection.
a change.
Right. It's contingent of the successful inspection is going to be one of the hinging points that the renewal actually
Right.
lands on.
Right.
It's not that it's completely new, it's that we're integrating the ABCC rules as well.
Right.
Yep.
And and if there are inconsistencies, they should be addressed,
Absolutely right. Absolutely, or not granted.
or changed, or whatever.
Yep.
That's fine.
Okay. We have a temporary labor appointment request in front of us from the highway superintendent. A name we know. Tom?
I would like to request the appointment of Taylor Haas as a seasonal temporary highway laborer. Taylor's main function will be sidewalk winter maintenance at the town office building, library, and the Graves Memorial. He will be paid $13.70 per hour, and this will be an on-call as-needed position. I request the appointment be made effective December 24th, 2013. Thank you for consideration on this matter. George Emery.
Nice. Any discussion? If not, is there a motion to appoint Taylor Haas?
Well, one thing, Scott.
Sure.
Margaret, these are a 6 months appointment, right?
No, the seasonal would actually be according to the appointment cycle. You haven't done mid-year, at least in the past.
You would say seasonal through
I
effective.
thought we had 2 seasons.
Okay, we're-
Didn't we have a winter season and a summer
Summer
season?
Maybe in the past.
Take us to the beginning, like.
Right,
the
it
end
does
of
You
winter.
could, yeah, you could do that. This past
It-
appointment cycle, you appointed the
I think we
slate.
need to look at the personal bylaws, but,
Okay.
so.
You want to have an effective date?
December 24th until the, end of the fiscal year.
Okay. And you're right, I remember there's summer seasonal appointments as well. Yep.
I think we should check that.
Okay. So we have a motion for Taylor Haas, seasonal until the end of the appointment year, fiscal year. Second?
Second.
Motion,
Second.
okay, motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
3-0, please. Okay. So it's Christmas Eve tomorrow. Town offices are closing at noon time. So we're open in the morning, closed on Wednesday, and closed on the first of the year, town offices, and then Monday, January 6th, looks to be our next board meeting. Jingle bells.
Didn't mean to do that.
You didn't do anything, and it still
I
sounded
did,
off.
I know.
Okay. Any other new ground to cover?
The men's club dinner is not the first.
Oh, right, it's the
It's gonna be
The following
the
week.
following.
second
So
Wednesday.
it'll actually be the second Wednesday, not the first.
Okay.
But don't tell the president because he wouldn't go along with that, but that's what the guys making the dinner have said, so he's in Hadley right now recuperating from his
Is it hips?
surgery, his knees, so
Knees.
we're not gonna tell.
Well, make him wait table.
Right.
Get those knees in place. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
3-0. If you can call us out at 7:29:45.
Merry Christmas all.